everybody. How are you doing? The chat has been particularly busy this today, and it's been other than the XP farming, which I totally endorse. Like Brand and I were talking ahead of this to kind of figure out like what is the purpose of the chat XP ranking thing that YouTube has put together. And the short answer is I think it's just I don't know. Actually, I just don't know. But anyway, we have ranks, and Trucker Alley Cat UK is the leader at the moment. Anyway, let's get to it. My name is Rich Tesla. This is the Two Guys Tech Homelab Hour. It is Tuesday night, and it is 5:30 on the Pacific coast of the United States, which is where I reside. And this show is all about hanging out with like-minded nerds to talk about Homelab stuff, talk about the videos that I make with Two Guys Tech, answer questions if people have questions, you know, just kind of hang out with people. You think I'd be getting better at this intro stuff as long as I've been doing this. This is episode 32. I wrote it down here. It's episode 32, so that's great, right? And yeah, so if you have questions, throw them in the chat. Brandon's behind the scenes. He's my producer, and he helps me make sure that this runs nicely. So if it goes well, it's Brandon's fault. If it goes poorly, it is my fault. We have a Discord, which is the big benefit to anyone who's watching here. The Discord's free. It's full of people in the chat here, which is great. I love seeing all these faces, not faces. What are we gonna call them? Handles, names, talking away, and like Kevin, thanks for joining us. We got lots of people. Anyway, the Discord is free, and after the live show, I get on a little shortly afterwards. I have to move my stuff around and stuff, but I get on and we do kind of just a hangout, right? And we talk, we throw stuff back and forth. It's a really good time. In fact, part of the things that we're going to talk about today found their genesis, their inspiration from conversations we had in that live show conversation. So, okay, we'll get to it. So I like to start these with a, kind of a personal story. And it's not like a funny lol or funny, it's not funny, haha, or funny, stupid or anything. It's just a personal story. On Sunday, but let's take you back first. So, this is a Homelab show, I promise. I, like many people, work Monday through Friday. That's typically the day job. Yeah, I mean, I'm also on call occasionally when things go bump in the night. I mean, I think of a lot of people in the chat who are watching are also on that. So Sunday is the day of mourning, if you will. It's the day you have to prepare yourself, and if you have a family, your kids for the week ahead. Washing the clothes, get the groceries, do all of these things that the adult part of life demands of you and demands of me. Well, Sunday, part of that whole thing is like the washing of all of the clothes for everybody. And my washing machine, we got all the kids' clothes washed. We got everything ready, the bedding all done. Everything's just, chef's kiss. Then goes my clothes. And the washing machine fails. The washing machine dies. Unceremoniously, there was no smoke, no excitement, just a number and a code on the display. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm not a handyman. I know, I mean, you might think that my, it's part of my skills are like, I can fix a computer problem all day long. I can build you a complicated engineered network of nodes across the globe. I can do all of this cool shit, but I am not an electrician or an appliance maintenance kind of man. I'm just not. Okay, we have strengths, we have weaknesses, and my weakness is like, I was the kind of guy who like measured twice, cut once, realized that I measured from the wrong spot, and go get another piece of lumber and do it again the right way. So measure 3 times and cut twice. It's just who I am. We're all different, whatever. Anyway, so it led me down this thing. Okay, well, we have to replace the washing machine. So I'm not going to try to troubleshoot it. It's a Samsung, and I have a question for you guys. Actually, while I'm talking here, let's just throw it out there. While I'm downloading this to you guys, I want you to put in the chat who your preferred washer and dryer manufacturer are, because I think that from what I've learned, there's a whole lot of people become religious about what is a good appliance and what's not. And I want to hear what you say. So back to this. So throw them in the chat while we're talking. Tell me, are you a Samsung? Are you an LG? Are you a Maytag man or lady, person. I look, whatever. Anyway, so I do the thing. I start looking. First, I try to troubleshoot it. And then it turns out there's no way to troubleshoot a washing machine. Either it works or it doesn't work, and that's just the way it is. If you want to troubleshoot it, get yourself out a voltmeter and get in there, or a multimeter. And I'm looking at the chat here. I should focus on the chat. Look at all this 1960s Maytag. Yeah, I shouldn't even. You know what? So it's Sakura. Shouldn't have done that. Anyway, so I start researching. Right, I start looking for a replacement. The washer and dryer set that I have is old. It's 9 years old, so it's not like it's old. It's also not brand new. I think that 9 years is an acceptable amount of time to get out of a washing dryer. Dryer works fine still, but I'm going to replace them both. Why? Because I don't want them to look different. I don't like that. Anyway, so I start researching. And what I've come to realize is that every brand that exists, every brand that is sold today, whether it is a Korean made or it's an American made or it's a Chinese made or just whatever, everybody thinks that they're equally the best and worst that's ever been made. That's what I've come to realize. I've come to realize that when it comes to getting reviews and getting honest feedback about something, this is online specifically, maybe not necessarily word of mouth, because I think people can talk to you more directly. But if you just ask the internet, hey, what's the best? What you're going to find is, you're going to find that people hate and love equally. As an example, because I won't belabor this too much longer, but I just want to talk about it. I went to, there's a subreddit called BIFL, Biffle. It stands for Buy It for Life. These are the people who go, I want to buy one of these and I don't care. I want it to be there forever, right? So I'm in the Biffle and I'm searching like best washing machine. And someone comes up and says, oh, buy this Speed Queen washing machine. It's the best. You're never going to have anything better than that. So I'm like, okay, reading about it, right? And everyone's just trashing everything else. Everyone's underneath that is just saying, Speed Queen's the best. And then I search Biffle for Speed Queen. And what I get is another link that says, Speed Queens are trash. And there's just a ton of people, agreeing with or disagreeing with Bullet. So I have just given up. So we got a Speed Queen in the chat. There we go. So I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Anyway, haven't bought it. Gonna buy it. Need to get one taken care of before Sunday, because then I'm not gonna have any clean clothes, and neither will my kids. And I don't want to be the type of parent that sends their kids to school smelling. That's not good. Not good. Anyway, personal story out of the way. Washing machine is still sitting where it's gonna sit for now. I'll figure that out. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about technology, shall we? Let's talk about this first, because ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today is the 14th of October. That shall be known as the end of support for Windows 10. I really need an echo effect. I can just press a button. There it is. I made that, by the way. Well, ChatGPT made it. It was just like, do this. See how it says Windows XP? I asked it to include other operating systems on lower other headstones. It did a good job. So let's talk about it, because it's kind of a thing. We need to, I guess, just kind of have a conversation, because I'm sure that every single person in this chat right now, every single one of them is a Windows user, right? Of course you are. I know it. No? No? Really? Linux? Okay. At any rate, let's get to it. So you have some options. If you are at the end of, if you're a Windows 10 person and you can either do an upgrade to Windows 11 because your computer is supported, as long as it's like a 11th gen and newer Intel. Yeah, I see them coming in now. I see that. Nope, don't use Windows at home. Bazite in the chat. We got a whole bunch. I know there's some Pop! OS people out there. Look, I'm also a fan of the Linux operating systems. However, I prefer mine to say Mac OS. I know it's Unix. Moving on. Anyway, I have a Windows PC. I got to play video games. You're not playing Battlefield 6 on Bazite. I'm waiting for someone in the chat to say that's wrong. Anyway, I got someone saying LG is very good. Good. I appreciate that. Okay. So you can upgrade your machine from Windows 10 to Windows 11. That is free if you have an operating or a piece of hardware that's supported. Or you can go buy yourself a brand new Windows 11 PC with Copilot. You guys want that? You want to do that? You don't want Copilot? Oh, I don't either. Or you can get a free 1-year extension with ESU, which is Extended Security Updates from Microsoft, by just going to your Windows 10 updates, make sure they're up to date, and then clicking the button to say sign up. I know that future you is going to appreciate that foresight and the understanding that you decided to just kick that can down the road a year. But, you know, I think that it leads to a really interesting conversation that I know that I've had with people in the Discord. I've had with Brandon and others about, like, what is the point? Basically, this move to abandon Windows 10 and end of life all this hardware, perfectly good functional hardware, by the way. Like, Windows 10 runs fine on the older gear right now. Is, I think we've kind of all collectively decided Microsoft's trying to make more money by selling licenses because, you know, brand new laptops have a license built in. Maybe it's trying to help out Intel by saying, hey, now you got to buy some Intel CPUs because Intel is not doing so great, as we all know. But either way, it seems like a very, very wasteful and unfortunate thing. So I want to know what you think in the chat. Throw your opinions in that chat. Let me know what you think Microsoft's reason is. Obviously, the short answer is it's probably money. It's always money. This is a late stage capitalist society, right? So who are we kidding? It's always about money. But yeah, lots of opinions about Windows 11, especially the spying and the hoovering of data, as Leavix just said. So, and Sakura thinks that Intel is dead. Intel can't die. It's too big to fail. That's we talked about that. They got a big pile of money from Nvidia and a big pile of money from the US government. And Intel's not going anywhere. Just not. Which I don't want Intel to die. I honestly, guys, I mean, like, we like an underdog story as much as anybody else, right? And AMD was the underdog for such a long time. Scrappy upstart doing the best they could. And they really did. They really brought their game, and now AMD is second to none. And Intel is floundering due to, as many of you would probably say in the chat, decisions made by people who weren't engineers. They were decisions made by people who had business degrees instead, right? Anyway, I don't want Intel to explode. Also, living in Oregon, the great state of Oregon, Intel has a lot of fabs out here. There's like thousands and thousands of people that have jobs. I don't want them to lose their jobs. That's not something that I want. Not at all. So, anyway, excuse me. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to some good stuff. Yeah, and Jason likes his quick sync, right? So come on, quick sync's got to stick around. Let's remove this. I should go back to being full screen. And let's dive into PDM, Proxmox Datacenter Manager Beta. Just released a video this morning. If you haven't seen it, I know you'll watch it. I know that's why we're all here, right? Anyway. But before we get into PDM and walk through and talk about it, because I do want to spend some time to just take a look with you guys. You can ask questions and we can dig into it and look. I did want to share some interesting things with you. So this is the thank you, Brandon. If we scroll down here a little bit, I just want to point this out. This was there's two funny things that was left as a comment. First one right here. This is a good one. I don't know if you can see it. It says, "My uncle long ago removed his mustache after years of having it. It was hard to recognize him. It's the same with you and the missing hat." And he's right. I didn't wear a hat in this video because I was just trying something different. So dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun. I have come to realize that the hat is as much of my image as my own face. Guess I can't shave the beard either. That's fine. I didn't want to shave the beard. Then there's somebody, and this guy has made this comment previously in the past. He's still filming up his nose. He's still afraid to show the top of his head. I asked Brandon, do I have a bunch of up the nose shots? And Brandon's like, I watched the video and I didn't see it. I did move the camera up just a little bit because, in all fairness, people do have, most of the time when people leave comments, they have a point. They have a reason for making a comment. It's not just to be a jerk face, right? You know, even though the internet, they're not doing it to try to be mean. They're doing it to try to, they have a point to make. And so I try, as a good human being, to find the point, to find the reason, not to just assume that people just want to be a-holes, because the a-holes they're easy to catch. So I've moved the camera down. So you guys are going to have to tell me in future videos if my nostrils play as much of a role. I can't believe I said that out loud. My nostrils will be playing less of a role in future Two Guys Tech videos. Never a stranger sentence has been uttered from my mouth on a live stream before, so clip that, friends. Oh my gosh. Yeah, next will be a top-down view. Thank you, Secure. Just the top of my bald head. I'll make sure to shave so I don't have a Caesar going on there, you know, because yeah, if I just let it grow, I would look, I don't know. I'd look like a typical 45-year-old balding, you know, male pattern baldness man. That's just, we go to war with the army that we have, friends, not the army that we want. I didn't necessarily choose to lose my hair in my 20s. It decided to leave on its own. Okay. Anyway, let's get to... Oh my gosh. Oh, you know, Shadow Technologies just said, who wants to see Rich with a fro? I did create a Sora that gave me a fro, and I look good. 70s fro with a plunging neckline with the medallion. I looked good. Anyway, let's move on. All right, so I did want to talk about PDM because specifically PDM is you know, the beta's been out for a little bit. It came out last month, and I didn't touch it at first, mostly because I had a whole bunch of... September was a wild, wild month, friends, and things have kind of slowed down. You know, everything's kind of quiesced back to normal life. But I did want to talk about PDM as it exists right now, and specifically the changes that they made. Because, you know, if you're not going to watch the video, that's cool. Let's talk about the changes. First off, from the dashboard perspective, now they've added 3 new cards at the bottom, a task summary that shows like the functions that have occurred on all of the infrastructure that's been added. Oh, fine. I'll turn on the dark mode. There you go. Are you happy? The dark mode is on. All right. I know that some people it's very late for them and the light mode is probably a little hurtful. So I did it. Dark mode has been activated. Okay. Anyway. So you have a task summary by category, right? So guest migrations, if you had a bunch of stuff going on, this would give you the fail and warning and success rate of it, right? Lots of virtual machine related tasks and some backup jobs that are run for me. This is another card that shows task summary sorted by failed tasks. So, but this is done by remote, and a remote is either the cluster or the single node that you added to the system. And the last one is SDN zones. You know, I have 6 SDN zones. So all these are clickable. If I click this, it shows information, which we're going to talk about this because this is awesome to talk about here in a second, which is the search functionality. They added EVPN functionality in the SDN so that you can build and connect your clusters and systems as long as they have EVPN controllers set up on the nodes themselves, which is a more complicated setup. This is one of those things that will be really good if people have stretched clusters or clusters that are stretched across you know, disparate independent clusters that stretch across long distances. This will allow you to make migrations between them and control the movement of virtual machines and stuff. And that's awesome. It's a lot more complicated because it obviously requires BGP and it requires you to set up you know, you've got to configure your VNets and your zones inside of it. It's a 400 level course, college course, if you're with me. For most people, this is not going to come into play because you would already have a VPN connection set up or something between your sites. I think would be the simplest way. This is really about like, hey, you can get tunnels over the internet, do VXLAN across long distances. You can do that for it. If these are all strange words I'm saying that aren't familiar to you, then it's probably not for you. That's the way I describe it. It's not for me either. I don't mean to make it sound like somehow I'm like pushing my glasses at my nose saying, well, actually EVPN is really for, no, it's not for me either, but it is for people who have very large networks of lots of nodes and clusters spread across long distances. Like Unify site to site. Thank you, Shadow Technologies. Anyway, what else has been added? Let's talk about the search functionality, because I think this is the beta. They're still adding these new features, they're really building a foundation here still. So this is not going to replace vCenter right now. You're not going to roll this out and be like, boom, done. Now I have a single pane of glass. I'm able to do all these things. Someday, probably. I say probably because I'm just not entirely certain. Anyway, so the search functionality, they've added like a GitHub style filtering system where you can type in plus, let's say type colon, and I can type LXC, and it'll show me all of the LXC containers that I've got in the organization, or my organization. It breaks them down by remote. So obviously Proxinator is my Proxmox host, right? So you see there, you can add more to this, right? You can say plus type colon stopped, and it'll be blank because they're not stopped. But if I type colon running, it should have done that. It didn't do it. Let's see if I can get it. Here I am doing this live. Oh, no, it's not type. Is it status? I have not fully. There it is. Sorry, it's status. It's not. So status running, and then you can see them, right? You can access them, and all these are clickable. If you click it, it just takes you straight to the asset, and you can look through all the stuff. This is obviously. So they've added additional stuff in here. So now you can see your storage. So they got better graphing across the board. So all these graphs have improved compared to the alpha version. A lot more behind the scenes, a lot more concurrent. Instead, it used to do sequential access of the nodes to pull metrics, and now it does it concurrently. So they're all basically near real time and up to date, which is really nice. And with the graphing enhancements, they've also, this is a little rich. Let me zoom in here. Enhance. This is just for the sake of simplicity. This made me laugh. There's a decade option. And seeing that there was a decade option made me go, that's pretty bold that you're going to have a decade's worth of data, because it's not pulling historical data. This is all, the instant you spin up PDM, it starts building these RRD these RRD graphs. So it's not pulling history out of any of your nodes. Yeah. So moving on. So they've also added your storage now, and you can see storage information. Granted, it's still not like, I would love to see like IOPS and performance across them. Right now we're just getting storage utilization, which is fine, right? Look like local ZFS, you can see this is showing you total and usage, but it's providing a lot more additional information that wasn't there before for stuff. You get disk IO off the VMs and stuff, but not to the whole data store or storage device, whatever you want to call it. Data store is a VMware term. And of course, the system itself, you go to your host, you're going to get a bunch of core detail about everything. Getting a little high on my RAM usage, 256 gigs. Trucker Alicat UK asked, decade option are runtime contests back. I remember when 4 years without a reboot was considered merely adequate. Yeah, it'll keep the data through concurrent reboots. Now I can show you, for example, here, let's look at my Proxinator, and I can go based on week, and you'll see there's big gaps here. Oh, by the way, PBS is now part of it. We'll talk about that too, but I'm using this as an example to answer Ali's question. Thank you, Terry, but no, there's no Hyper-V node information inside of this. You can go back to Hyper-V Manager if you want to get those details. Anyway, you can see this host coming up in offline. Yeah, look at that. Everybody's happy Terry's here. Terry, they've missed you. And the Hyper-V. Anyway, so you can see this is like PDM is collecting this information, but when there's no information provided by the host, it just disappears to get a deadline. So anyway, so they added PBS. Now, I don't know if you knew this or not, but their main goal here is to get all of the Proxmox ecosystem into Datacenter Manager. That includes Proxmox Mail Gateway. Obviously, PBS, they just started adding them. With PBS, all you get is host metrics, right? And you get all the same sort of information there. Your maximums and your averages, and you get your host storage. And you can see the content. You can see all of my backups in here. Look at all these backups. Except for that one down there. It's not backed up for some reason. Should be. I'll have to check and see. No, those aren't backed up either. Figure out what's going on. But you can get verification information. You can get, you can see the backups. So I guess it's backing up. It must just because it hasn't been verified. My verified tests happen once a week, so that's not a surprise. But that stuff is very basic, but it's moving along. Like there's some huge benefits, or not benefits, but huge improvements done on this. Adding nodes. So in the original version of PDM, the alpha version, when you added a node, you had to if you remember from the video I made way back when, you had to go to your Proxmox host and copy your SSL fingerprint and then take it over to PDM and paste it in, because otherwise it just wouldn't do it. Now, if you roll this out and you add a node, it pops up and says, do you want to trust it? And you say, boop, and it's done. And that's awesome, because that's the kind of thing that should have been there arguably in the first place. But, you know, hey, we're making major moves. But just got to say, I still love this UI. I still think it's great. There's, you know, there's a couple themes in here if you want to switch between like a few different things that just kind of like change the colors in that too. Yeah, we got oranges instead of greens, whatever. But I'm liking this. This is really, they're doing good. I have high hopes, high hopes, and I hope that I'm not disappointed. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, because I've definitely been here. This is an example. Let's clone this or duplicate it here. Let's go here and let's go look at this. I feel like wasting time complaining, because I feel like it's old man yelling at clouds, but just bear with me here, okay? Look at, and I have this zoomed out to, you know, the uber degree so you can see all this stuff. Let me back it down just a wee bit here. But like, we look at the summary information. Tell me these graphs don't feel old and ancient compared to the, you know, the information that they're now providing in here, right? Like this looks, it's the same data. I get it. I'm not a fool. I understand. But I'm just saying it really does feel like there's a huge, you know, there's been some major changes, and I like it. I also really have never loved this. Choose on this side and then choose the sub menus, then go over here and do the thing. One last thing of note, because I think it's important to note, they've added updates to PDM now. So if you have a cluster or if you have individual nodes, you go to updates, you can update your systems from there. So again, one less thing you got to do in the node. The more we move over there, I agree. Old graphs can still be good graphs. I'm not saying they can't be. But I am just, the new shiny. Anyway. So yeah, this has been massive improvements on their part. So it's good to see, because otherwise, what do you know? And then finally, if you want to run this and you're running it in a container or you're running it on a virtual machine, you're gonna have to upgrade your OS, your underlying OS, because this runs on Debian Trixie. The old one ran on Bookworm. Side note: did you know that the nicknames or the code names for Debian are based on Toy Story characters? I did not. It wasn't until I started trying to research what Trixie was. It wasn't Jumping Jackalopes or anything like that. You know, like Canonical does. They're based on Toy Story characters, because I guess one of the guys who started Debian was the Toy Story guy who worked for Pixar. The more you know. I feel like I need a rainbow thing to come across the screen that says the more you know. Anyway, so if you're a Proxmox user, frankly, point being, just install this. Spin up a container like I did. You can just, here it is right here. I spun up a brand new one. It's really simple. Just get yourself running a version 13 of Debian, and then you add the package configurations, and you just say install, and it's done. That's it. The rest of the configuration stuff is essentially the same way it was in alpha. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Anyway, there was, yeah. So Trucker Alley Cat UK, they remember Woody. I didn't. I learned. Anyway, where are we going next? All right. I mentioned it earlier. It is the title of this stream. So it's time to have a conversation, friends. Let's have a conversation about whether Rich, 2GT Rich, is a traitor to pfSense. Okay, backstory here for those who have no idea what I'm talking about and aren't in the know, because I very much want you to be. I have a old piece of gear. I've got, let me see if I can find a picture of it, because I have a PHOS SG 3300 or 330. All right, find some images of this. I have one of these guys. It's this model right here, basically. Out of stock. I can't believe it. And I bought it off eBay, of course, where I go to do a thing all the time. And it was running it's still running a 6th gen, but it was like an i5, but it's basically a PC in a box. The chat is already throwing me support. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I haven't gone there yet, guys. I mean, it's right there. It's calling my name. It's like, hey, you want to do it? You want to install me? You do? Yeah? I haven't done it yet. Because there's a lot of planning involved with migrating firewalls. It's not so, especially between these different companies. Like, again, I'm on a tangent here, but you do realize that when you're in the enterprise and you decide you're going to switch between, I don't know, let's say you're going to switch between a FortiGate or a Meraki firewall, and you're going to switch over to a Palo Alto, right? When you do that, wherever you're going, whatever side you're moving to, most certainly has a tool that will do all of the basic configuration migration for you. If you're running on a FortiGate and you've got a bunch of VDOMs and you've got a bunch of stuff in there, and you go buy yourself another competing enterprise firewall and you say to them, I'm running this and I want to go to you, they're going to say, give me a dump of the config and I will dump it into my system, and it'll go and it'll just work. Aragorn Strider in the chat is also doing the same thing. He may have been helpful in this decision to send me down this path. There's a lot of people in this chat that are actually very helpful in this decision. So anyway, so I built this system. This guy here, I built it, and I still think it's one of the best firewalls that I've ever had the opportunity to build. Mine doesn't have the add-in thing because I didn't need it, because it has 10 gig already. And, you know, it's an Intel box. It's basically a desktop PC that is purpose built to be a firewall, right? The ports are in the front. There's a network connection in the back. There's an HDMI port, so you can plug it into a monitor and see what's going on. And it came with Sophos, which I happily deleted off there and installed pfSense. And it's been great. Like I did upgrade it from an i5 to an i7 because the chipset inside the thing, it's just a computer, could do it, and I wanted some better throughput. There's a whole video about it. We're not going to go into that, but it was a thing I did, and it's been nice. It's also got some downsides to it that had made me send me down this path. So, first things first, this platform, the SG330 here, came out in 2014. My little firewall now, which has got a CPU and some RAM and a hard drive, like an SSD in it that I upgraded to, and it is, I mean, it's the platform is basically a decade old. I say the platform and not necessarily mine because I'm not sure exactly when mine was physically manufactured. You know, they manufacture a product line that goes on for a certain amount of time. I'm not going to pretend like mine is literally the first one off the line, although it could be. I'm not sure exactly how physically old the hardware is. But the platform was created in 2014. That's a long time. And it also shows just how old the technology that's in it is, right? Time for upgrades. Linksys WRT54G. I knew I could rely on the chat to give me some really good ones. This is not a Member Berries episode. So if in case you're wondering, I do remember the WRT54G. I had one. I didn't install OpenWrt though. That wasn't me. Anyway, at the time. Long story short. So it's getting long in the tooth. And one of the big problems about this, and it's a problem that's part of pfSense, and I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase that or reframe it. It's not a problem. It's just the way it works. pfSense is very single-threaded when it comes to processing traffic. And what I mean is, my deployment is a router on a stick, which means I have a bunch of VLANs. They all end up in the router, and the router does the inter-VLAN routing between those VLANs. So client network, server network, everything. As I'm passing things through the firewall is packet filtering, and it's also handing the packets between one VLAN and another. I don't have core routing. I use a router on the stick. And CyberWire69 ran Tomato on their WRT54G. I remember Tomato too. I remember. You remember? I need a soundboard. I need a soundboard for this. I'm just saying. All right. So like Aragorn Strider said, higher clock key is key for so many things these days. Yes. There's also some complications with this. So the fastest I could get is whatever the maximum performance of a single thread is on a 6th gen i7 CPU, which was when I'm actually doing across 10 gig was roughly 8 gigabit a second. Not the 10, not what I really wanted. I wanted line speed, couldn't get it. But also, that also meant that CPU in there, in this 1U chassis, it would spin up and get real hot real fast, right? Because if I'm moving a big chunk of data from the server network to a client network or vice versa, the little 40 millimeter fan in the back of that box is screaming bloody murder because it has to pull air through that heatsink, right, to make it cool off to keep it there. So long story short is it was less than ideal, but it also worked really, really well. It wasn't as big of a deal as, you guys can make fun of me all you want because I'm always talking about these theoretical maximums. Like, oh, I have a 10 gig network between these things. I should be able to move it. Like, yes, but how often do I send 10 gig data through? Very rarely. Right? But nonetheless, when it kicked off, it sounded like a little tornado in the box. Like, whee! So loud, I might add, that my rack is in my garage, like many people. And I could be in the living room, which is a few rooms away from the garage, and I could hear, woo, woo. Yeah. And but it was fine. It's in the garage. But now we're kind of getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I should consider replacing this. 10-year-old platform, 10-year-old generation, 11, 10-year-old, whatever you want to say. Maybe it's time to look at the future, right? I'm already a pfSense Plus customer, which is a yearly thing. That's like $200. So, if I stay at pfSense, I should probably look at buying a Netgate firewall. And we talked about this. I looked at buying this guy here. This is the Netgate 6100. Sorry, I want the next Netgate 8200. Because of the throughput, because it's capable of moving a lot of data. I have a 5 gig internet connection at home, and I wanted to make sure that game over, Dave. My brocade already destroyed my hearing. I remember those, like the 6540s and the 6610s. Oh yeah, they were loud as hell. But I was looking at this, and I was like, okay. So yeah, Ali made a good. Brandon, throw up that message from Ali there because I think that's a good point. Which is pfSense for a year cost about the same as my Unify router. This is a real thing. There's also more to this than just that though. So this Netgate 8200, just quite impressive performance, but it's $1,400. I wouldn't have to buy a pfSense Plus license anymore, but it'd still take $200 out of it. It's still $1,200. That's a lot of money to spend on something. And so I was lamenting this to Brandon. I started to talk to everyone in the Discord too about it. And the response that came back was like, why are you doing this? Why wouldn't you just buy a UDM? Why not? And I said, well, I didn't want to buy a UDM because the thing with the UDMs is like if you look at the UDM Pro, it's got pretty big limitations on maximum throughput. And then I think it was Aragorn Strider, might have been someone else who said, look at the Pro Max. Just look at the Pro Max, and it can't. This device can't beat like this raw layer 3 forwarding, but also it's a 10 gig, so having 18.6 is more than I need, right? Because I'm only going to plug. Thank you for that. I'm only going to plug one wire in there. There's only going to be one 10 gig wire in there. So I thought about it for a long time. There was a lot of people in this chat, a lot of people here who are just like, do it. I feel like it's one of those Emperor Palpatine moments where just like, do it. And so I did it. I feel weird, guys. I feel a little weird about this. The thing is, I very much like. No, scratch that. I very much love pfSense. But when you start to look at the realities, pfSense really hasn't made any real innovations lately at all, right? Take and ignore. I know that there's a lot of FUD and a lot of like anger about some decisions that the company's made. There was the Homelab version, which they just went whoop and pulled away from us, right? I was a Homelab version user, and then they kind of pulled some shenanigans. There's a lot of people who don't like individuals in the company because of previous things, and I don't want to get into any of that shit. That's not important to me. And basically, the bigger issue that I've kind of come to realize is like, well, while I still have this real soft spot for pfSense because it really does provide an enterprise level of firewall, which means enterprise complexity as well. Let's put that aside for a moment. But also the fact that, Unify is out here actually doing shit. They're actually making improvements. They are innovating in a way that I don't see pfSense and their hardware doing. And it could be because it's a downward trajectory for them in terms of like on-premise firewalls. I don't know. But it really, really kind of made me go, okay, look, the visibility that you get from a single pane of glass, I said it, I feel bad. Hold on. Every time you say single pane of glass, you must take a drink. I don't care what you're drinking, coffee, water. But that single pane of glass actually matters because it is one of the reasons why Meraki, which I'm not a fan of Meraki, hands down, not a fan of Meraki. Wireless is great. Their switching is terrible. I'm not a fan of Meraki, but Meraki's value prop is that they have this single pane of glass that shows you end to end across your entire network infrastructure. And Unify is building that without a subscription, at least at this time. When they've squeezed out everyone else in the market, that's when they turn on the subscription. I think there's a lever that every corporation has that they just wait until whatever they're doing has squeezed out enough of the competition. Then they go, pull the lever. And all of a sudden the subscriptions start flooding and things come, I feel like, but we'll see. I hope that doesn't happen, and I don't have any inside information that says it. So don't. I love it. I love the drinks are in there too. I love it. Sorry. I'm sorry. I may have said some swears. I do realize this is a PG. I don't think I've said any bad swearing. Have sworn poorly. Whatever. Anyway, so I did it. I went and bought it. It's right here. And like I said, it's calling my name, but I'm not gonna, because I'm not a Unify firewall user, I am not going to just pull this out and YOLO it because I know that if I do, I'm going to break something. And the internet is not just for me. It's also for my day job. It's also for the family to YouTube consume and all that stuff. Fine. Sakura says pull it out of the box. I don't know if you can see this. Brand, let's go full screen for this because why not? Yeah, there's that thing here. You even get to hear the ripping noise. Boop. Anyway. That was about as risque as I think I'm going to get on this. All right, there it is. I mean, it's. Oh, shh. There you go. I'm just going to go ahead and drop things. You can't see it, but it's in the wraps. Okay. It's in a nice little bag because apparently everything has to come in a nice little bag. Heavier than I imagined it would be, but here it is. There it is. It's got two 3.5 inch store or drive slots, which I won't be using because I'm not going to be using Unify Protect. I've been told that eventually this is a slippery slope and I will, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to do that. It's got its 8 PoE ports, 1 gig, and then the 2 10 gig ports. And it's chonker. Single power supply in the back with a redundant DC input if you've got that. There it is. Took it out of the box. Very nice. But it's led me down the road of the things that I'm going to have to replace now that I've got this. And basically what I've come to realize that there's just going to be a bunch of stuff that you can see all this stuff. I'm not ashamed to show you this stuff, and I'm not worried about seeing my IP address. It's not even my IP address in this case. I'm not worried about it. They change. Like I have all of these interfaces, right? All these interfaces that are there. All of these VLANs are going to have to be migrated over and set up on this box. My whole intention is to do this out of band and then swap, and then, migrate from my on-premise Unify controller, which has got my premises controller. It's got all my wireless devices and my Unify network switches onto this, and hope that the world just doesn't come to a crashing halt. But I do a lot of things in pfSense that I can't do in this now. If I look at my packages here, Let's go look and see the package I've installed, because the package manager is really where it's at. I'm not using Acme certs on this, which I should be, but or the HA proxy. I tried, couldn't get it set up reliably. But I got PF Blocker NG installed, and PF Blocker NG for me has been arguably the #1 package for pfSense that I've gained the most value of. Because if we go look at it here, again, I'm going to show you all the things that I love that I'm going to lose here. So PF Blocker NG, where is it at? Oh, there it is. Sorry, it's under firewall here. So the best part of PF Blocker NG is that it allows me to essentially use and add a whole bunch of lists, right? And so I have a few lists here, but I get to choose. Let me show the big list. Where's that? Like, I can just define the access control of everything and how things get to me. It's just been a boon for being like hardcore in terms of how I block ads and protect the network, right? And I know the chat's filling up with like, Unify now has a built-in ad blocker. I've heard that it's a little touch and go, right? And so I think what I'm going to have to do is what I've already been doing to keep the kids from looking at the nudie stuff on the internet, is to spin up a pi hole as my default filter and send DNS all the way to that. Because then I can add my lists and do the things that I want to do, right? But you can look at all of these feeds, and inside of these feeds, you know, the PRI is basically their list of like reliability. So some are more like testing versus not. But all of these, and it just goes on for days, guys, days and days. All of these lists. If I want to use the easy list Latvian because apparently I want to block Latvian stuff, I could. Like, there's just, it goes on and on. You getting the point so far? This is really like the big reason why PF Blocker NG just excels. It is Pi-hole ×2. It also lets me do some of the, we'll talk about here in a second too, Aragorn. PF Blocker also NG lets me do, let's see if I show it right. Where is it? I want to see the list so I can show you guys the list. Oh yeah, I block IP address ranges based on, you know, this is based on specific lists here, but also like if I go to, no, sorry, that's not it. Not that. So my geo IP stuff, I block traffic from Africa from getting to my house. I block Antarctica because, you know, all of the true bad guys in the world, all of the, you know, the black hats out there, they're all coming from Antarctica. But anyway, point being is that I block stuff, and then inside of these, I do other additional blocking to, like, I can. It's geo IP blocking. I know that it's not foolproof. That's not the idea. The idea is not to have a foolproof answer to this, because you can use a VPN. You can use a Tor exit node. I get it. I also block Tor exit nodes, by the way, so that's easily done. Nonetheless, that's something that I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss it, but I believe that I can get there with a combination of things. The chat's bunch of commie penguins down there. That's true. You don't trust the Antarctica connections. Long story short, these features and functionality that I've come to love and rely on, I can do in Unify if I bolster it with a combination of other things. But there's one thing that I as an add to that. They have for $100. This is $100 a year, by the way, or Aragorn. Now, if you knew that, but it's not just a one-time payment. You can get IDF IPS protection built in to be, you know, looking at your traffic inside of this UDM Max or UDM Pro. So, I mean, they support the Pro Max, the Pro, the Special Edition, and, you know, the Cloud Fabric gateways. This name is ridiculous. Enterprise. Well, let's enhance. You guys can't see what I'm talking about. Enterprise Fortress Gateway. Isn't your Enterprise a fortress? I got people telling me in the chat that geo-blocking is supported, which is good. I mean, these are things that I'm going to discover, right? Anyway. So I did buy this to give it a try, to see what it's like. I know there's some people in the chat who tell me that's a waste of money. I may have wasted $100, but it'll be a good talking point, and you guys can tell me how wrong I am and all that stuff. But I would like to see what it sees, especially having young kids, see what they're doing on the interwebs. At any rate, and Proofpoint makes good stuff, by the way. The email security gateway stuff is really good. So this on top of it. Long story short, so I made the decision. I made the tough call. I have now become, I'm not a convert yet. None of you in this chat can call me a Unify convert yet. Levick says, I will tell you how wrong you are, but I want to hear your experiences. No, that's nice. At least he's willing to hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. So yeah. Yes. So at any rate, so this is what's coming. I'm going to work on a video because it's going to be, this is a big change. Like, I sat down after the box arrived on Monday and I was just thinking about it. And I was like, man, there's a whole lot that goes into swapping a firewall and a core. I mean, it's my layer 3 routing. So it's not just I'm going to turn it on. Gone are the days, Homelab or friends, gone are the days of a single subnet where you're just like, oh, I'm going to yeet out this natting D-Link Netgear router and bring in something brand new. There's a lot of history there. So unfortunately, there's no means for me to dynamically migrate. So, but yeah, so this is the thing. This is, well, I'm pointing at the screen. This is the thing. Wherever the thing went, why did it go? Technical, here we go. The pfSense box still blows away the Dream Machine in terms of overall raw performance, but it's also literally half the price, right? Again, take out the $200 for pfSense Plus because you get it for free if you buy Netgate hardware, and you're down at $1,200. And then this is $600. This is still half the price, and you get all the innovation, and you get the single pane of glass. So I did it. Will I regret it? Have I made a mistake? Find out next time on Rich Spends Money. And Terry Johnson said, replacing all of our HP switches and gateways with Ubiquiti this year. There's a lot of companies that are doing that. I don't know if I feel... Okay. Sakura's right. I should be clear. He corrected me. The pfSense Plus is $129 a year, not $200 a year. So that makes the 8200 still even less of a value. But I agree. I have my numbers wrong. Appreciate that. So anyway, let's. I had a few more things to talk about. I don't want to run through them, but maybe you guys heard about the 858 terabytes of government data that just burned up in South Korea. That was great. I mean, it's not great. Not great. Not good at all. But article speaks about there's investigations into criminal negligence on the part of the data center workers for not keeping their stuff maintained. That's a big loss. They claimed that it was too big to back up. I don't know if that's true. It just means you didn't put enough money into it. But yeah, that's what I just said there, Levis, is like, that's what they get for thinking it was too large to back up. Like, that concept, that logic of saying that something is just too big to back up, that doesn't make any sense. I think what they meant to say was it was too much money, more money than we wanted to spend, right? Yeah, Sakura could store that locally for a price. The man's pushing a petabyte, right? So I don't agree with that logic. The logic saying that you shouldn't back up your data because it's too much. It just means you haven't spent enough money on your infrastructure. How much storage do you think that a single hyperscaler's data center has? It's not measured in. It's probably measured in hundreds of petabytes, if not an exabyte. Right? Exabyte, is that right? What's after peta? Is it exa? Exabyte. Yeah, exabyte. I was right. Exabytes are 1,000 petabytes. My brain does remember. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, it could be exabytes, nonetheless, this was kind of fascinating. I mean, obviously, this battery fire is it could be an accident or it could have been negligence, right? We'll find out if those guys that were responsible for maintaining those systems didn't do their maintenance. But fires happen. In a normal data center deployment, or where you're building a data center, typically your battery systems are physically separated in rooms. They're not anywhere near where they can catch a building on fire. Who knows what the data center even looked like? It might have been a wooden shed. I'm kidding, it wasn't. But like, it sounds like there's probably a combination of bad things that were happening. If you had a battery fire, that's bad. If you had a battery fire that burned down a big chunk of the data center, that sounds like a design problem. Because I've been in many data centers where the battery storage systems and the generators were separated from each other and from the main data center, and they were in gigantic, like, cinder block, but concrete blocks, right? And enclosed with their own gas and water systems to prevent that. So, a lot of people. Shadow Technologies is coughing insurance fraud. Anyway. And the last thing I'll talk about, because we're getting close to time here, is the loopholes to get around having to have a cloud account for Windows 11 are getting tighter and tighter. Although I think this article actually does say that there's been a, I guess it doesn't. But Microsoft is going to be forcing you guys. Eventually, we're all going to be forced into a cloud account, right? There's just no way around it, unless you're going to run local Active Directory and tell it you have an enterprise. But nonetheless, I'm not surprised. Microsoft's going to make us all get in the cloud and lose all of our stuff. Yeah, that's right. Shadow Technologies YouTuber already has a script. Yeah, I did see that. There's ways to do it for now, but Microsoft clearly wants everybody to be using a cloud account, and they're going to eventually get their way. It is their operating system. They can make the mandate and the requirements to do so. Yeah, that's right. Jason mentioned it. Chris Titus. Yeah, Chris Titus does have a workaround. I saw his video. Good guy. He's a smart dude, and he's so yeah. So I think this is a losing battle. I'm sorry, it just is. But let's it is time to do a close up. This has been a great conversation. Let's get myself full screened here and do my closing. So, like I said, I try to get a live stream. Join our Discord. It's free. Hop in there, hang out. CyberWire69. Join the Discord if you're not in it already. You might already be. And because everybody's names in YouTube versus Discord are obviously different. We're gonna have our after hours chat here in a little bit, and we'll catch you next week. Maybe there'll be a video about this Unify box, or maybe there won't be. Depends on how far I get with this. But guys, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure, my honor to hang out with you on this wonderful Tuesday evening. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys. See ya.